Hey guys, we're back with the take. Today we got my man, the baddest speaker in the NFL and NCAA, Ben Newman. We're going to touch on some topics around COVID, the future of the NFL, the NCAA, what teams are doing, what they're not doing, who's going to overcome this. Stay tuned. Let's go.
See, it's great to be able to see you and that big old smile and to talk a little football in this crazy time that we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely crazy. How's everything going over there for you personally at the moment?
Well, it's been an interesting time. I didn't realize that I would go to a completely virtual format for all my corporate work and work with players. But, I think it's like anything. The individuals who adapt and they continue to attack, they're the ones that thrive. And so whether it's athletes or business professionals, and what I've tried to do is maintain an environment, maintain a routine, and enjoy this extra family time. I've had more family time this year than I've had in the last 15 years. It's been great.
Absolutely. No, I definitely feel the same. You're working on the ground with, NFL teams, big college teams. What do you think the outlook we're looking towards the NCAA season and the NFL season at the moment? Like, do you think we're, especially in college, I know you're heavy in college, do you think that, if a lot of teams or conferences drop out, are we moving towards some completely new structure? How do you think, roughly it might go this year for either NFL or college?
Well, you certainly would hope. Let's start with collegiate, because I've had a lot of, work and exposure to both NFL and collegiate teams during this period of time. And I would say let's start on the collegiate side. I think you have to have universities that are comfortable moving forward, conferences and schools where the presidents and the ADs and the commissioners are comfortable moving forward. I think it's unfortunate because I've been in some of these facilities and I've seen how safe they are. I would argue that these players are safer in these facilities, which are sterile. They've got teams to constantly be cleaning. If somebody gets sick, there's a training staff. They're far safer there than they are back at their homes or in their apartments trying to manage things on their own. And so I hope that some of the conferences that have held back, if there's a chance to change, to give these kids a chance to play, and it's safe for the kids, I think that'd be great. But I also think we have to respect if they decide they're uncomfortable, then, that's okay too. And, there is a strong contingent of teams that are willing to play because their protocols are in place. And I think it all comes down to the right protocols to maintain safety for these players.
Absolutely. What are you thinking of? Some of the teams are coming out with, sort of plastic face masks. They're doing, mandatory masks while they're playing and stuff like that. Do you think, overall it's going to affect people? I know, the adversity from me being a player, having some, routine change and gear change always throws you a little bit. Do you think that's going to affect any of the guys at all?
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting. Last week was the first time, obviously, I talked to coaches about it and talked to players about it, but holding a helmet for the first time last week and seeing the mask, essentially, Jesse, it's, and I know you enjoyed a good visor, but, essentially it's a visor that just goes over the course of the whole helmet.
Yeah.
So for guys who had a visor, essentially it's a visor that goes over the bottom half of the mask. And so that's what I think is kind of interesting, is that it's not like they have a cloth mask or a gaiter that's underneath their helmet that they're wearing. So essentially it's blocking, anything that's coming out, but it's really not that much of an inhibitor to their ability to breathe or to compete.
I've seen a few videos and photos out there, and I think for a lot of guys that don't wear a visor, it'd probably be a bit more of a hassle, but I think most of the other guys will be able to adapt to it. In your
that's a good point. I didn't think about that. If you weren't used to a visor, then it would be a brand new thing for you.
Yeah. I think for a lot of the guys, especially linemen, I know, wearing a visor and constantly hitting, I was wiping and cleaning my visor so many times. It was just getting more of a hassle than, the look of it. Your space is heavily, I would say motivational, inspirational, and working in performance and thinking. Do you see any correlatives in, the adversity that's happening at the moment and guys being able to find opportunity and overcome in this space to then, essentially ball out or make the most of that? Because, there's a few key guys that have mentioned they might not play. There's a few key guys getting hurt in training camp already. Do you think you see a few new faces popping up to sort of, I guess, make their mark a little bit?
So I'm so glad that you asked that question, because I was going to find a way to bring this up. But I think the opportunity for a player in the NFL fighting to make a roster is better now than it's ever been. The opportunity to compete, the opportunity to stay ready. One of the professional teams that I work with, I was having a call with their director of all of sports performance. And on the strength side, I said, gosh, I said, what an amazing opportunity for you. I said, you literally get to speak to these players, and every player has an opportunity because you just don't know what's going to happen in this climate. And you've been in camps, Jesse. You know what it's like to battle against those 90 guys and to know like, first 15, they're kind of already gone. We kind of know the next 10.
Yeah.
And then there's just a few that maybe squeak onto the practice squad. And we almost know our 53 going into camp. The opportunity's never been better for these players. And that director of performance, he was just like, man, I didn't think about that, because I believe that one of the changes we'll see once we get a little further along in these camps is potentially an increased practice squad. Or is there a COVID squad that allows some of these players, we can hold on to an additional 5 guys. Think about punters, kickers, and long snappers. There's only one.
Yeah.
Well, in this situation, you actually do need a backup punter, which no teams ever keep. So some of these things, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I was, even just my frame of mind was like, just say we have that, top guys are going to play, sort of in a blink of an eye. You could lose 5 guys, 5 starters right away. And it just opens up so much, especially at the collegiate level when you're dealing with teams, like the Alabamas, and compare them to some smaller schools where, those guys are relying on those 1 or 2 or 3 really good players. If they lose them, that essentially can change the whole season for them.
That it's a really good point. And that's where it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But at the end of the day, it's like anybody. You have to do the things that keep you safe.
Yeah.
And that's one of the messages, whether I was talking to you as a friend or, being a former player, but as a friend, or, we have to do the things that keep us safe. And you're either going to choose to not be safe or to be safe. And if these players err on the side of being safe, we should have limited amounts of players who don't have the opportunity to play, but they've got to do what they're supposed to do by staying safe.
Absolutely. Last question. A lot of the guys you've been around in the NFL and the collegiate level, coaches and players, what are we looking at attitude-wise into sort of the unknown season or steadily changing outcome for the season? Is it positive? Are people, people dialed in, still focused? Do you see a little bit of, sort of lost in translation in regards to, they might be thinking about COVID too much, might be that. What's it like out there?
So it's interesting that you said lost in translation, because one of the consistent messages I've had with coaches is communication through uncertainty. Mm-hmm. And we have to admit this is uncertain. We have to admit it's not going to be perfect. We have to admit like things are going to happen. Like there's going to be adversity and challenge that we've never faced during a season. And teams and coaches that if they were to say that that's not going to happen, they're going to have serious struggle. But if they encourage players to communicate, if a player gets quarantined, think back to your playing days. If you got sent home in the middle of camp for 14 days, that would not be easy to be by yourself for that 14-day period of time. So to communicate and to tell these players, we're here for you. Reach out to us. Communicate with us. If you're struggling, let us know. The teams that do that the best are the teams that are going to compete at the highest level and make it through this period of time.
Well, I'm looking forward to the season if we do have one. I'm keeping my eye on Alabama and a few of my guys in the NFL. We'll stay in touch. I appreciate you jumping on the show, and keep doing what you're doing, man.
I appreciate you having me, Jesse, and I look forward to making it over your way when we get back to safe times when I can come to Australia.
Hey, man, the spare bedroom in my house is waiting for you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.